I doubt who this belongs to. Vape, maybe? IT?
Good afternoon. It's 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. We will call the City Council meeting of the City of New Ulm to order. Item number 1, consent agenda. Councilors, what are your wishes?
I'll offer a motion to approve those.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Item number 2.1, annual on-sale intoxicating liquor license.
Motion to approve the issuance of an on-sale intoxicating liquor license for Orel Authentic Mexican Tacos and More LLC at 1627 South Broadway, including front patio for the period beginning April 15th, 2022 and ending June 30th, 2022, subject to compliance with all city and state requirements.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Item number 2.2, tree service license for Priority Tree Experts.
I'll offer a motion to approve the issuance of tree service license for Priority Tree Experts LLC, owned by Spencer Streamel, 211 6th Street, Southeast Little Falls, Minnesota, for the period beginning March 2nd, 2022, ending June 30th, 2022, subject to compliance with all city and state requirements.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Item number 3.1, a conditional use permit for Paul Neyers.
Good evening, Council President, Councilors. John Isley, planner with the City of New Ulm. Doppelike and Vineyards LLC and FN Properties LLC is requesting a conditional use permit to operate a farm winery in the B3 General Business Zoning District on properties legally described as the north half of Lot 7 and the south half of Lot 7, Block 68 north of Center Street. The street addresses for this property are 225 and 227 North Minnesota Street and 509, 511, and 513 3rd North Street. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this application with 5 conditions. But before I get to those, for clarity's sake, the building at 225 North Minnesota will primarily be the building where the winery operation will be serving the wine. The building at 227 North Minnesota will primarily be the building where they'll be doing the actual fermentation and processing of the wine. The 5 conditions that were recommended were: 1, the applicant will pay the cost to record the permit with the Brown County Recorder's Office. 2, no exterior storage will be permitted on the properties. 3, the applicant will secure and maintain necessary state and federal licenses to operate a farm winery. 4, there will be no external manufacturing impacts on area properties. And 5, the applicant will comply with the city outdoor seating requirements. The applicant is here, so if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Nisley.
Yeah, I absolutely welcome change like this. I mean, it's right in my backyard, literally. So I'll go ahead and offer a resolution, waive the reading, approving with conditions the application of Paul Neyers on behalf of Doppelike and Vineyards LLC and FN Properties LLC, requesting a conditional use permit to operate a farm winery in B3 General Business Zoning District on the properties legally described as north half of Lot 7 and south half of Lot 7, Block 68, north of Center Street. Street address is property 225 and 227 North Minnesota Street and 509, 511, 513 3rd North Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
I think it's great as well. I really am, we have the Inspire that's going to be bringing lots of activity downtown with their big events. This place, when it gets up and running, is also going to drive traffic downtown. I would think the business district is going to be pretty excited about getting some movement again going downtown. So
Absolutely.
What are those buildings being used for now, if you don't mind my asking?
Sure. So the building at 225 North Minnesota, that's currently Mona Lina
Oh, okay.
Bar and Restaurant. And then at 227, the part that is facing 227 North Minnesota is actually it's used as an office currently. In the back of the building was KXLP
And Dan stuff.
and Den Steffel Insurance
Okay.
Agency.
So, Mona Lee, that'll continue to kind of operate like it is with the extended space, and then the other property would be used to make the wine. And what's the other one used for on Third North?
The office, and from our understanding and discussions with the applicant, the office is going to remain in the front at 227.
All right, perfect. All right, excellent, thank you.
Lena will go away and this will take over both, or will that name stay? Don't know yet. Okay, just curious. More just curious than anything else, so, thank you.
Well, great, it's great to see things happening downtown. It was unanimously approved by Planning and Zoning. We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
Do we have any timelines on this at all? Anything you want to say? You look like you're the man in charge.
COVID has made all timelines challenging, so it's hard to say. I would really like.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neyers. Any additional discussion?
Well, I was just going to add from the zoning, we did bring up, I brought up the question about repairs to the building, and, he's going to put some significant investments in because noted that, some of the windows and condition of the building, and he's studying what he's going to do with the rear part of the one building there. It's from on the alley side, there's some repairs, so whether to repair it or raise it at this point in time, but so anyways, it's activity and it's a positive reinvestment.
I agree. Any additional comments or discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack,
Yes.
Counselor Christian,
Yes.
Counselor Schultz,
Yes.
Counselor Warmka,
Yes.
and President Becker.
Yes, that motion's carried. Thank you. Item number 4.1, second consideration of ordinance number 2022-049, fifth series for zoning.
Is this the one we were going to ask Roger to read into the record?
That's the redistricting one.
Give me 1 second here. I want to pull up one thing on the computer screen. Joe, it's not letting me move over again. Press any source, turn on the system.
I think he got it.
All right. Just scroll up.
Dave Schnobert, Community Development Director. I just wanted to advise the council of what staff has been doing with regards to this project since the first consideration, which was at your last meeting. Most of the time has been spent by John doing formatting on the document. But we also have numbered all of the tables and the figures that we have. We've looked at our spelling, our text, and our grammar, and cleaned that up. And I expect that there still are some locations where things are out of order and that we'll need to do some additional work on it at a later time. We adjusted 3 definitions. That was landscaping, easements, and we added professional trade firm. I believe we told you about that at the last meeting. We also, in the area of parking, took self-storage and divided that into 2 parts. One was for enclosed storage. The other now is for exterior storage, something that'll be new to New Ulm, and you'll be finding at the New Ulm Event Center. We also made sure that our definitions were all in alphabetical order. We had a few that weren't in order, so we changed that. And then we also added some more uses to the I3 zone, permitted and conditional, and we advised you of that as well at the last meeting. Now, there are some additional things that we need to do with the ordinance. They're not necessarily text-related, but they are related to the document itself. And so on the screen, I would like to show you those particular items. So first off is we need to add a table of contents. And we're going to have also with that then a table for the tables themselves as well as a table for the figures. So people will be able to access those. The second thing that we need to do is on some of our use pages, the one for residential, business, industrial, and special purpose. We need to fill in the additional requirements. We already have that in Chapter 9, which is our comprehensive use table, but we need to list those additional requirements in that location. It'll make it easier then for people to know if they exist or not.
Dave, if I can interrupt you, I think what you're telling us is that anything that's going to go in that column under additional requirements is that the text is already in the ordinance.
Right.
And this will just be a summary for purposes of the use of anyone who's reading through this.
Yes,
It's not going to change any of the terms. Okay.
not changing anything, it's just adding to what's there. The zoning map, we ended up with some parcels of property that abut the city but aren't in the city, so we're going to take those out. Then something that is now required by state statute, and that is that we have to identify the locations of our air safety zones. So we have, we're currently showing the primary runway, which is there, and we have two different designations. One is for Zone A, one is for Zone B. And then we also identified a location for the crosswind runway. Now, this is a proposed location. It's not yet in place, but we thought we would include it at this point in time. If it, for some reason, is not ultimately approved, we simply would remove it from the document.
Madam President, City Councilors, we're currently working through, with the Joint Airport Zoning Board, getting that airport zoning completed. The draft ordinance is up at the state for review right now, and assuming everything goes through and is adopted as we intend for it to, that zoning would be in place, even though we don't have a crosswind runway at that location. It really just protects that airspace zone from future development. So-
Right, but
so
the goal is that we will get that completed.
long-term
Right.
goal, yes,
Yes,
yep.
okay, yep.
And then the final thing that I would like to note, and this is perhaps the most important in my eyes, given the size of the document, is on each page at the top, we're going to have a caption, and it's going to tell you the chapter that you're in, it's going to tell you the section that you're in, and it's going to tell you the subsection that you're in. So hopefully that will help you navigate the document more easily. At some future date, if time permits, we might also be able to put captions down the side that you can click on and then immediately go to other locations as well. But that's more long range than anything that we're currently going to be able to do. So that would conclude staff remarks about the document.
Thank you, Mr. Schnobrecht. There you go, Dave. You just have to wait till you get the links, and then you can click right to page.
That's a lot to scroll down, 409 pages.
So even that front table of contents won't be hyperlinked at all at this point, or will be?
The table of contents will be simple to hyperlink.
Will
We
be
can do that.
hyperlinked, okay.
Yeah, that won't be a problem.
Good job for an intern to do the whole document, though, right? find your spot. Can't find it. You can still talk about it. You probably know where
Well,
it
it's
is.
all right. As he gets those put on the side, it will be a lot nicer.
Yeah.
I know Counselor Christian had a question and is just looking up an item.
No, it's, well, like I said, staff did a great job because before this, I was in their office almost daily with questions. I did have the one, Dave, I'm not even gonna try to find it on there. I noticed in one of the, in our definitions, the temporary signage. Okay, but then I was looking for it with the other part. The general public, like, we take our famous corner, Center and Broadway. Technically, that will go away, correct?
Well, the signage that is permitted in the B1 zoning
Right.
district, that's what they're allowed to have, and that's actually what they're currently allowed to have, so.
So
Yeah.
it shouldn't have any impact on that? I mean,
no,
I'm
it'll-
talking about like, we used to talk about that. Boy Scouts are down on 10th South, the big sign, pancake breakfast this morning,
Oh,
whatnot.
yeah, yeah.
Those types of things?
There is a provision for temporary signage, you know, but there are sign limitations, size.
Right.
So I expect that Center and Broadway, that may come into play, the size. So the number is something that may be impacted.
What about folks that have the banner signs like at Cashwise and Hy-Vee? They have them out in the, you know, for different benefits, and is that,
We have a definition for banner signs.
'cause those are pretty big, usually.
And again, we set square footage amounts, and so, you know, people are going to have to comply with those. And then basically, the square footage amounts we have, I believe, are ones that we carried over in the commercial district from what we currently have.
All right, thank you.
Sounds good. I know you guys have been continuing to work on this a lot, so we appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. So we still need an action on this, so I'll go ahead and offer a motion to conduct the second consideration of ordinance number 2022-049, fifth series, deleting Chapter 9 of the City Code of the City of New Ulm and adopting Appendix A, zoning ordinance relative to this zoning in the said City of New Ulm.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion's carried. Thank you. Item number 5.1, new business, use of parking stalls by New Ulm Craft and Vendor Events Board.
This has went over really well in our committee, so I'm going to go ahead and offer a motion to, I got to get to it first. Authorize use of the 22 parking stalls by the New Ulm Craft and Vendor Events located at 2nd North and Broadway Street, parking lot adjacent to City Hall to hold a shop, the lot, craft, and vendor show on the following dates: May 14th, June 18th, July 16th, August 20th, and September 10th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Item number 5.2, first consideration of ordinance number 2022-050, fifth series redistricting of wards and precincts.
President and councilors, this, due to the census in 2020, we are required to redistrict our wards and precincts. And now that the state has released their plans, we can go ahead and move forward with ours. The information was presented at a work session a couple of weeks ago. Councilors led towards the scenario that we've gone with. We started with changing between wards 3 and 4, changing the border so that it goes straight down Center Street, and then we had to kind of move some of the other borders a little bit to accommodate those population changes. Overall, the redistricting affects about 1,900 voters. And then we did, the following request is for the polling place designation to move polling places into each of those wards.
And today was set up for a listening session if
Yes,
anybody,
prior to this meeting, and
and how many people came?
nobody.
Nobody?
It's good that we do those, though,
It has been
because
presented to the legal and the voters as
yes.
well, so they've seen the information.
So it's been out there, and it's been in the paper, and
And it will be posted, once approved, it'll be posted for 56 days, so.
And then they'll also, those impacted would also be notified that their ward and polling places will be changing. So I know Nicole and you and your staff spent a lot of time on this because you said it was kind of a manual process to move the houses inside and out.
Roger spent a lot of time on the ordinance.
But it,
If you look at the, excuse me, if you look at the changes to the ordinance, we literally had to go through every single street to try and have it match up. I do want to call to the council's attention a couple of things. One is if you can pull up the new precinct map for 2022, and if you look at, I believe it would be Ward 2, Precinct 2. It's in the northwest quadrant of the city. The dark shaded purple area, if you look on the easterly or the right boundary of that, you'll see a little leg along the south bank of the Minnesota River that, as it is now worded, would jut into Ward 1, Precinct 1. When I was trying to come up with the description following the streets, there is no street there. And I spoke with the staff and also with the person at the city engineer's office who was working with the census maps and trying to make them comply. Because there's a recommendation from the Secretary of State, it's not a statute, that our precinct boundaries have to follow the census boundaries. Long and the short of it is what I did was that little jog is not going to be intruding into Ward 1, Precinct 1. In the ordinance that I drafted, excuse me, the line between Ward 1, Precinct 1 and Ward 2, Precinct 2 is going to be a straight line extending 3rd North Street all the way to the south bank of the Minnesota River. There are no dwellings in that little area. It basically, I think it might be the area, there's a street there apparently, but it follows behind where the elevator was along the river. So it's not going to affect any voters. But I just want to let you know that as written, the ordinance is different than what this map is, and I believe they'll change the map to reflect that. And then the other thing would be just in the actual ordinance as far as identifying the polling places, and I contacted Nicole's office about this to make sure that the actual addresses appear for the polling places as opposed to just identifying what it's, commonly known as. So that's it.
I thought we had a good discussion on this at the work session, just kind of going over pros and cons, and this particular way had a polling place in each ward that made sense and was a nice, safe location to go for. So we were kind of all in favor of this one in our work session, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to conduct the first consideration of ordinance number 2022-050, fifth series regarding the redistricting of wards and precincts in New Ulm.
Second.
we do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Item number 5.3, designate 2022 election polling places.
President, councilors, with the redistricting, we're required to re-designate our polling places, even though we just did it a few months ago. But we did make a couple of changes, and we're asking to move the Ward 3 polling place from the Civic Center to Christ the King Lutheran Church, and the Ward 4 polling place from St. John's to Our Savior's Lutheran. That puts both of those polling places right in their wards, and we do have permission from both church councils as well. So.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm going to go ahead and offer a resolution, waive the reading, designating the 2022 election polling places to the Redeemer Lutheran Church, 700 South Broadway for Ward 1, the New Ulm Community Center, 600 North German Street for Ward 2, Christ the King Lutheran Church, 1515 North Garden Street for Ward 3, and Our Savior's Lutheran Church, 1400 South State Street for Ward 4.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
And again, as we mentioned, people will get notified where their new polling places are, so if you don't remember, you'll get a little postcard or something in the mail, right?
And they can expect that as a postcard, right? Not like something in their utility. Okay,
We'll work with the county to get those distributed.
perfect. Thank you. Any additional discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
And President Becker.
Yes, that motion is carried. Item number 5.4, support for housing and local decision-making authority.
Madam President, City Councilors, this item is being brought to you not only by myself, but also Community Development Director and the building official as well. There's been recent legislation that's been proposed, which is umbrellaed underneath the housing affordability legislation that's been brought forward by Representative Elkins from Bloomington. And within that language, it's made to address housing issues within the state, but it has many provisions within that legislation that preempts city authority when it comes to our residential development and local land use zoning requirements and things of that nature. There's many concerning items within that proposed legislative action. I've spelled that out within the action form, but primarily staff is concerned with the provisions within the bill that preempt our city zoning and land use requirements and authority. We have minimum standards within the city for right-of-way widths, street widths, and things of that nature, and this bill would essentially overrule anything that we have locally. It would reduce our ability to have orderly development within our city and within our community. The city zoning and land use authority are essential tools that we use that benefit our community economically and socially, especially when it comes to laying out new subdivisions and zoning, which we've spent, the community development department spent much time on. So we feel that it's important to make our legislators aware of this. We've been flooded with emails from the League and City Engineers Association of Minnesota as well, with many concerns for this. And they developed the language that's within the resolution, and we would send that on if council chooses to support our action to oppose this legislative bill. So if you have any questions or anything that can
Is there a
between.
companion bill in the Senate?
Right now, they're still within, I think they're just in that draft legislation stage still, so I don't think anything's been presented to the Senate at this time. I think it's just a House file right now.
Okay. I can do some digging tomorrow and we'll be up.
Well, and as I kind of had some discussions, I've been following this for quite some time in some of the Minnesota Cities magazines that I get, and it's been discussed at some of the trainings that I've attended. And while I understand, I try to look at both sides of something, and I see where, this provision's coming from, where you want to be able to have some control on what types of businesses go in certain areas, but to legislate that, when there's already good job being done at the local level. I mean, so I do understand both sides of it. I am in support of us keeping that decision-making ability to ourselves.
I'm also.
Yes, it's a very slippery slope when you get on something like this where you start to say, well, you want to build this kind of business here. No, you can't. You have to build this kind. I think that we still are capable of making those decisions, so.
This action has been proposed in the past too and has been met with resistance. So it's looking like it's something that's going to keep getting brought up over and over again. But I think especially us outstate communities need to stand strong and oppose this type of legislation that really hinders our ability to do what we feel is best for our communities that we serve. So.
Mr. Nisley or Mr. Schnoberg, do you have any comments or anything that you would like to share in regards for this proposed bill?
All of this effort kind of comes under the umbrella of trying to provide affordable housing, and they've identified, a significant lack of housing. But for, at least for New Ulm, I don't see this legislation having any positive impact on housing. A couple months ago, we went through, and one of the things they point to is, municipal costs that, may increase the cost of housing. So it can be things like, building permit or parkland dedication or those kind of things. And they said that at least in some locations that impacts the affordability of housing. And when we looked at our costs, we were less than 1% of the total, housing cost on the building permit application. The other thing is that there recently was a hearing on Representative Elkin's bill, and at least the presentations that I saw all pointed to communities in the metropolitan area. There wasn't one greater Minnesota community that was cited as potentially being an issue. And so why are we being brought into this this problem or this issue, which appears to be more metro-based than outstate-based? I don't know. It's kind of this one-size-fits-all kind of approach to things, which I don't think in this case will have any positive impact on greater Minnesota.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments.
Madam President, councilors, one particular thing that my department would be really concerned about is if they start regulating right-of-way widths. With all the underground utilities we have, we barely have room for them now within the 60-foot residential right-of-way. So if if we're going to be controlled to have smaller right-of-ways and things like that, it's really going to be hard to just fit our infrastructure in the ground that those developments need to be served. So that's an important item too, is there's only so much room within that right-of-way, and if we're limited on what we can require, it's only going to make future use of that right-of-way more difficult.
Right.
I think it's the right thing to do, so I'm going to offer a resolution, waive the reading, stating that the City of New Ulm City Council supports local decision-making authority and opposes legislation that restricts the ability for local elected officials to respond to the needs of their communities, and that the New Ulm City Council supports housing policy and advanced solutions to support full housing spectrum solutions, local innovation, incentives instead of mandates, and community-specified solutions throughout Minnesota.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka? Yes. And President Becker?
Yes, that motion is carried. Item number 6.1, report of claims paid.
Make a motion to accept the list of claims paid in the amount of $5,617,959.96.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion is carried, and with no additional business, this meeting is adjourned.
That's not even fair.
Why? Come on.
Because you're on your way to the metro.